I'm your host, David Barron. Today we are going to have Brad Voth on the show and, of course, producer Mike. Let's welcome them to the show right now. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Hey, man, it's always good to do a process.
Brad, you doing well?
Yes, I'm fantastic.
So today we are going to talk about the convention experience from a pro's point of view. We're also watching the coloring of your artwork on Westbrooke. Tell us a little bit about Westbrooke.
Just basically, it's a cowboy horror, basically horror western, basically. Basically a revenge story. The main character, Westbrook, comes back to seek revenge off the people who wronged him, basically. And
okay, beautiful. And when can fans expect that to come out?
Well, we're shooting for November, beginning of November, to start a Kickstarter for it. And
okay, beautiful. We'll talk about more of that. What we're talking about today is the pro convention. So if you're an upcoming artist, if you're an upcoming pro that's looking to get into the convention circuit or test out your very first convention just to see what it's all about, maybe this video is going to help you a little bit. We're literally going to talk about your experiences, my experiences. So I've been doing conventions since I was 15 years old. It's been 30 years now that I've been behind a table all over the world. On your end, you said, I think you've been in the convention circuit for about 6 years.
Somewhere around there, maybe a little longer than that.
Yeah. And what made you want to get behind the table?
Well, I mean, my love for comics has gone. It's been going on since I could read. And, comics is somewhat of something I've always wanted to do. And then it's like, I was unemployed and basically trying to think about what it is that I could do. And I was like, comics were it. And so I went to Planet and just kind of when I moved back from Chicago and went to Planet. And I hadn't been to Planet for 3 or 4 years.
And that's Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a small show in Overland Park. And it was tiny. So when I walk into this, deciding to reconsider being on the opposite side of the table, I walk into the convention center and it's grown tenfold, and I'm like, holy crap,
Yeah. And those are good. That's a good sign. That's kind of a interesting point for pros to kind of understand of small versus big, and we'll get that into it a little bit. One of the biggest things that I want upcoming pros or fans turning into pros or pros that have been in the game for a long time but not in conventions to kind of understand the idea of what a convention is. And it's kind of like, what is our why on why we are going to conventions? So my why on why I attend conventions is fan interaction and networking. For me, it's not about sales. It's not about, getting product off my shelf. It's fan interactions. I want to say thank you to the fans for supporting my work for 30 years. It's for networking, seeing pros like yourself, old friends I've worked with for years. We all work behind a desk. Nowadays, studios are almost dead. And so for me, that is my two whys. It's fan interaction of just saying thank you. So I know that I can kind of make faces, meet faces that support my work, why I spend hours behind a desk, and then networking to interact with my colleagues that I never really get to see. For you, being a relatively new to the industry, what is your why?
Well, similar. It's a good catapult to put an image out there like this Westbrook piece and see what your reaction is. Because I garner that as I have 3 or 4 books that I'm fluctuating between. So having that interaction, you get some feedback. If they don't like it, then you're like, well, maybe I could need to tweak this thing a little bit. And so I'm testing the water, so to speak, as far as, the books I'm putting out. And
right. So with that, it sounds like we're kind of talking about like what is your focus, at the show, and it's kind of one of those interesting things of like what is my focus. And sometimes I have a focus, a B focus, and C focus, and they're all equal focuses. It's just what kind of part of the show. So like my main focus is why I'm there is that network and fan interaction. But at my table now, my A focus would be to maybe sell sketch covers or to sell, a bunch of trade paperbacks that I just got in, and kind of fluctuates. When you are behind the table, what do you think your focus normally is compared to? So for me, again, my focus is usually something that's relatively new on my book, but in reality, I don't have a selling main focus. Do you have a main focus, whether it is hoping to do prints, commissions, or books?
It's mainly books. I mean, the commissions are nice, but I really don't get a lot of that. So prints, this year is pretty much the switching point from prints to books.
Right.
I feel that it's more inducive to where I'm going, and I want to do books. I'd rather not, do the print thing. I'll do it if I've got prints that are associated with my books, but it's primarily my marketing thing is to have all that stuff together.
Yeah, I think it's very important that when people go to conventions, they have to understand their main goal, and for I think most artists, especially trying to break in or solidify their foothold into the industry, it's really about that networking and showcasing who you are. I know you and I have had talks about not forgetting our main goal. Yeah, Mike.
Print versus books. Can y'all break that down? Prints versus books. What's that experience?
Yeah. So the print we're talking about, when we say prints, we're talking about like 11 by 17 posters, which used to be super popular back in the day when cons were smaller and we didn't have, major competition of other artists that not even in the industry, but they're just print makers. And so that's all they do. They have no desire to sell a book. They don't do any artwork for any company. They just go to conventions, make a print, whether it's AI or not. Luckily, they're cracking down on the AI posters, and they're just selling prints. So that's what we call them, prints. But it could be posters, it could be anything like that. Where books, we're talking about physical copies of comic books. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Okay, perfect. And then so I agree with you. Like you're a comic book artist. You want to showcase your talent. So you transition away from prints to books shows to me your growth in the industry, where it's okay if you're not ready yet to necessarily have a book and you still want to kind of table to kind of see what it's about. I don't think it's awful. Personally though, I always tell people, like I said to you, Brad, many times, it's about showcasing what you want to be. When we do portfolio reviews and you show me a bunch of covers, but you say, oh, I want to do interiors. Well, I don't see any interior work. So, I can't judge you on that, or vice versa. If all I see is panels, you're like, oh, I could do covers too. It's like, well, where's your covers? So tabling is almost the same thing. You got to be sure on what you're trying to convey to the audience that comes quickly past your table. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But quickly past your table, you got to convey, a little bit to them. So when you convey yourself to your audience, and now we're kind of talking about your preparation, what are the little tidbits that you'd want to share that have in your short time worked for you, especially in this recent show? You said you had a lot of success. What was the difference between this show and last show in your preparation that worked for you?
I eliminated all the stuff that didn't belong to me, the other IPs. It's like I did that to start out with, to introduce people to what I can do. Well, somewhat what I can do. I mean, my style, my which was all over the place. So, I mean, I'm kind of narrowing that down in talking with you over the last year since I met you, you know, trying to niche that thing down into a good sellable chunk that is cohesive. You know what I mean? So it's
totally. I mean, it's kind of like one of the early mistakes, right? We try to eliminate those early mistakes, and we grow. One of the early mistakes is trying to do too much, right? Where you're blurring your brand, you're blurring who you are because you're so worried about that sell. And when you're so worried about that sell or making money, you're kind of losing your focus, which is why we kind of started out with what is the why, right? What is the why of why we're doing this? And so it kind of goes into those financial considerations, you know. So like one of my notes here that I have is like, what strategies do you use to price your work? But in reality, it's not the strategy to price your work, because at that point you're only thinking about financial. What people, in my opinion, should really think about when they price their work on their table is market value. Do you have something that's actually worth a lot? So you don't undersell it, hold your market value, but then you have fan value. So I have books on my table that are market value of my sketch plus my signature plus my actual book that it's on. But then I have other things that give fans huge value, whether it's my mystery packages every so often, especially during the holidays, or my remark bundles that I have. Like when I come up to Comic-Con Revolution coming up, I'll have a couple fans that love those, you know, the fan value books. But then what people don't understand, and I think you do, especially currently with your Project Westbrooke, is promotional value, where you actually might take a hit, but getting that out there, getting your work out there is valuable to you. What's your views on those? Market value, fan value, and promotional value?
Well, I mean, it's really important to know your self-worth and what your say your hourly rate is. I mean, because that's a good basis to build all of your prices off of. I used to undersell myself all the time, and I mean, I mean, I could be even now, because I mean, because I'm not in the position you're in. Basically, I'm still, you know, I haven't been there that long. It takes some time to figure that out. I mean, you can't just jump out of the gate and know that.
Yeah, it's a tough thing because when I started, we had such smaller shows without, you know, big booths or big competition, and fans really, it was a comic book convention. It was not a pop culture convention, and we're really going more into pop culture. Having trouble saying that word for some reason. And what happens is so now there's more competition, where before fans would come and they would just go down Artist Alley. And Mike, I know you're still there. One of the things that you and I hooked up on is you are far more about walking down Artist Alley than you are necessarily seeing, not even though you might see panels, especially when your son's around and things like that, but it's far more artists, you know, meet and greets like constantly than it is looking at everything else. That's kind of faded away, you know, in your opinion as well as on the other side of the table, right?
Yeah, it kind of started off. I kind of started off in the panels, and then I realized Artist Alley was where it's at, and then when I want to get news, I kind of go to panels. So I kind of have my foot a little bit in both, but really where it's at for me is at Artist Alley, and when I'm looking at the con and when I'm evaluating the con, it's based on Artist Alley.
Yeah, and I mean that's just such a big part. So for the pro side, again, people have to realize when you're going to a show, sometimes smaller the better. Sometimes you're getting more value of the interactions. It's cheaper on the dollar, the financial side. You know, for you to attend even a show away that's slightly smaller. It's funny because people will talk about, you know, the money, like what I make. I kind of make the same money whether I go to a small show or a big show, because you're either a big fish in a small pond or you're medium-sized fish for myself in a huge pond. So it kind of works out all the same. I never recommend a show like San Diego Comic-Con for anyone who's trying to get their foothold. That's such a good show to network at, not to necessarily, booth that, because it ruins your networking hours. And so let's go back to you on putting those two, because you and I met at Denver, where you spent a good amount of time away from your booth at other people's booth. I mean, we were pretty close together, you and I. But if you did a booth, how much time for you is spent away from your table to give your networking? And do you find the value of having to understand that you're going to do both, that you will leave your table to go network, even though you might miss a couple fans? What's the value on that? Can you explain a little bit kind of your thought process on when you do leave your table to network?
Well, I have a tendency to overdo that, honestly, but
okay,
it does pay off. I mean, because I met you at Denver, of course. It's I had a portfolio review, so all those things are important with with the Marvel portfolio review. Those things lead to more money, so more work and more. So it's worth me to pull away from my table for a little bit. I'd say 25% of the time that I was there, for the 4 days I was out networking and talking to other artists, and I'm trying to cut back on that a little bit too, because I'm trying to promote my book, so I'm trying to stay at my table a little bit more. But those things are important, because we wouldn't be doing this right now had I not been out wandering around and talking to
on
people.
the networking side. Yeah, it is important.
I got a buddy of mine that goes to shows with me. We set up next to each other, and he's newer to all this than I am. So I'm telling him, you need to get out and at least take your sketchbook out there and hand one to some of these people, because that way they got something tangible to take away and they remember you. So if they ever have a project come up that they want to do, that perhaps maybe they're looking for somebody that's pretty new to the thing, and they may like what you do. So
and it's people like him why we're having this conversation, so he can hear a little bit more. Mike, chime in.
It's before and after time, guys.
Yeah, so we wrapped up the video, so we're going to be on like the final 5 to 10 minutes. Brad, I still have a couple more things I definitely want to go, because I'm really enjoying the conversation with you. So thanks again for coming on. Real quick, for everyone watching the process video that saw the coloring, you get to see the black and white, and then what I did over it. The biggest thing for all the art nerds out there like us, my whole idea behind this was engagement, and to bring energy to the piece. So with that, we're going back to the con experience. Energy is huge behind a table, and sometimes it can be really hard to keep the energy up. We can talk about self-doubt. We can talk about imposter syndrome. We could talk about rejection from the fans passing by. But in reality, it's about keeping that energy up. What do you do to keep your energy up? I know, because everyone gets it. I want everyone to know that everyone is that's behind the table gets rejected more than they have success. I mean, unless you're someone that's huge, that has the big lines. Like I have a couple friends that just have giant lines. Some of their lines are literally stacked up by my table, like it was in Denver. That could be overwhelming for a new artist. That could be overwhelming for an established artist that feels like they're a little on the downside. How do you keep your energy up during a table? Is there any tips for others?
Well, I mean, like I said, I have a buddy of mine. We just counteract, and if he's got a customer, we kind of cross each other and kind of have some fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as myself, if I'm by myself and stuff, you try to interact with people as they walk by, and hey, I've got this thing here. I don't have anything, like a print book or a comic. I try to, hey, I've got this at my table. If you're interested, come on over and check it out and stuff like that. Planet this last time was insane. I mean, I hadn't had really that kind of interaction with this particular piece, for an example. But people flocked to it. So it was kind of I felt it was a really good turning point for me from what I'd been doing, because this is the first convention that I didn't have all the other IP stuff that behind me, that I just was like, I'm kind
this was you redefined your focus that we talked about earlier. You showed, more of who you are to the audience, and you got a better reaction to it. And that has to, provide that little bit more energy. And so, from what I'm hearing, to translate it in my words to others, is that, one, believe in yourself, back yourself. But I also want to put on the caveat that just because some people may not like what you're doing at that show does not make it wrong. There might be some small suggestions on, just your display and how you, display it. Some people, when I walk past, they have too much going on because they're trying to say, look at me, look at me, look at me. And that kind of just pushes me away. And I think a lot of, the social aspects of what we do, we have to also understand our fans and who we are trying to speak to. And what might work for me may not work for you. What might work for us may not work for someone else that has slightly different thoughts. I have one tip that I give every single person that's behind the booth for helping on energy. And the tip is, one, stand up most of the time. The only time I'm really sitting is when I'm doing a commission. And then people kind of come anyways because I'm being active and people want to see what I'm doing. If you're an artist and you're drawing, and people want to see that. That's what got me to love Artist Alley when I was younger. I would walk the floor and just watch people draw nonstop. And it's getting so chaotic where there's a lot of big names that aren't drawing in front of you anymore. And so if you're an up-and-comer, please draw in front of people. Don't worry about, comparing your style or progress to someone else's. But fans love to see that interaction. If you're not going to be drawing, you're not going to be active, stand up. And here's my tip. I know that was a long-winded tip. There's the chef pad mats, right? That chefs stand on while they cook. Put that at your booth. Have those. Put 2 on there because we're standing on concrete all day. That is draining your energy. Get a pad, stand on it. Even when I'm sitting and my feet are on it, my feet feel better throughout the show, especially these 4-day shows, 5-day shows that I attend. Without that chef mat, it can drain. So that's my one real tip to everybody that I don't see more people doing, but it really does keep my energy high. Is there something for you that keeps your energy high there, Brad?
I mean, just the interaction. I mean, if like
just staying vocal, staying active.
Yeah, I mean, if I have 5-6 people at my booth, I'm up off my, I'm standing, I'm interacting, I think another thing that helped was my placement in the show, because I was across from Scotty Young and Kyle Strom and all those guys. So there's high traffic areas.
So let's talk about that real quick. I know we're getting close to out of time for what we want to keep the show running, but you can always request your placement. And one of the things that they don't always take in, I've been placed even myself in questionable areas, but you can always request. And if I'm not in the main guest lineup, if I'm just attending the show, not as a guest, but in the Artist Alley, I make sure that I ask to be placed locally by some of the people either I know or by other DC comic artists or things like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So please out there, ask, put it in the comments when you put your application, that you want to go. When you send it, make sure you do that. I picked up on one more thing quickly that I want to get your opinion on, because it does not help me, but it might help you. And kind of my thoughts on why not to do it. But do you ever split the cost with someone and then split the table So you have your stuff on half and their stuff. And have you found that has hurt your interactions, or has it helped your overall experience?
Well, two buddies of mine, we split the table 3 years ago. Well, no, before. We got two tables and then we split it 3 ways. So it helps. I mean, that particularly helped because it was around the time that I had met this particular buddy of mine.
When you say it helps, though, are you talking about it helps emotionally, financially, or by getting more people to come to your table?
Well, I think it shows more a variety to people, and I'm all about trying to help other people out when I do these things too. I mean, I have kids come up to me and they ask me for advice all the time about how to get into doing all this stuff, and I'm not, like I say, I'm not in your position.
We all have good experiences. I mean, it's like, and Mike, hop in here too if you can. Because I also want to get his opinion. When you see artists, and be honest, be brutal, you're not going to hurt my feelings, you're not going to hurt Brad's feelings. When you see an artist share a table and you don't know their work, do you like really look at both of them? Like what do you see when you see a artist share a table with another one, like two banners behind them, two different names? What goes through your head? Tell me.
I mean, a lot of things sometimes, because we don't know all the behind the scenes stuff like you guys do. And so sometimes we think, oh, you guys are rep by the same person. Okay. So we think that you guys, go to shows and frequent shows together. As it pertains to, does it help or hurt one artist or the other? I think it helps because at the very least, because all fans want to see is new stuff. Mm-hmm. And if it's cool, great. If it's not cool, they're not going to say nothing. They're going to focus on the person that they want to focus on.
Right. So for you, the size of the booth does not matter.
No.
So I think that's great then, because, for everyone that's watching this, that's kind of wondering, should I find a friend, get out there, cut the cost, cut the hotel room, cut the, because we didn't even really get in the financial side of this about hotel costs, travel costs, food costs. We talked a little bit about the value, like what are you trying to do? In reality, if we're talking about taxes right now, conventions are all a big write-off in America because almost everything we do, unless you become super successful, is at a loss or a break even. I would say, most of my conventions are a break even, and I'm okay with that because of and I almost go with that in mind. And I'm okay with that because of the networking side that, we talked about. I'm gonna stop talking on that. Brad, you have final thoughts on our conversation today? You don't have to have, any more or you can take a couple minutes, but any more thoughts on going to a convention?
Well, you're talking about costs and all that stuff. I mean, I went to North Carolina for Heroes Con and I bombed. I mean, that was the worst show I've ever done. But, sometimes those things are humbling. You can't be successful 150% of the time. I mean, you will break even most of the time. So you gotta understand that the outcome of those things are generally not going to be what you want.
Right.
So you got to figure out, okay, well, make it have super amount of fun with it, because otherwise you're going to get discouraged and then you won't go nowhere with it.
It's embarrassing that we haven't really talked about that also, about why. We talk about the why, we talk about networking and seeing colleagues, but we forgot to add, and it's fun, like make sure that you have that. I mean, that's the best way to end this whole thing, is the fact that you said you got to have fun. Like comics, is not going to be until you hit it, that magical, go. And I have friends that have hit that magical, number, and I love them for it, and I encourage them, and even they are still trying to hit their next magical, and it's just as frustrating as us. It's just they had that one, magical experience, and sometimes it's kind of be like a drug where you want it more now, and it becomes less fun because of that. So that is the ultimate, go. Mike, pop back in here. So I just want to say thank you both for joining me as always. Brad, tell us a little bit about where we can find you.
I'll be in Denver again in July from I believe it's the 3rd through the I guess to be the 7th, I guess.
Okay, well they could look that up too. So Denver Comic Con,
or
not Comic Con. What's it called now? They got
Fan Expo.
Fan Expo Denver. Yes. So great show for everyone. So everyone go see Brad out there. All of his socials and everything will be put in the comments and stuff like that. So no worried on there, but go check him out in Denver if you can. Mike, final words from you.
Always stay tuned to the Sig Slayer Station. So if you're liking the process, you're gonna love the Sig Slayer Station. Please subscribe to the channel and follow me and other friends on @StashWarsComics on Instagram.
Yes, thank you again for both of you joining me today. So the biggest thing that I want to leave you with is make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the Sig Slayers Station out. Someone who's been so good to me and letting me host the process to talk with you a little bit more each month. Again, we turned into a monthly show to up the process value of everything you see. With that, we really want to hear those comments about people that you would love to have on the show, people that you'd like to have me color, topics that you would like us to talk about. That's a big thing. It's a whole genre that we're trying to get with pro-to-pro conversations about the comic book industry as a whole, from retailers to fans to pros like Brad, who joined us today. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is David Barron, the host of The Process. Thanks for watching.
Sig Slayer.